With one of the most keenly contested elections coming up within a matter of weeks, Kane FM thought it would be appropriate to conduct some interviews with the local MPs. Can I start by asking what you know about the radio station?
It's really important, I think, when you're wanting to stand for Parliament, that you know all your media and that you can reach out to the different sectors, because some people only listen to Radio 4. They think they're terribly important, but actually a lot of people listen to other radio stations. So radio stations that reach out to a whole different group of people are terribly important.
I know a little bit about it. We've had a bit of contact over the last few years. Certainly I'm love to see, local radio stations, anything actually that brings news in a more local way to people, and also attracting younger audiences.
Will you be doing anything to assist the local artistic talent in Guildford?
Well, I think what you can't do, and certainly the role of the MP, is not to try and put boundaries around people and where they want to go, both artistically and geographically.
I do also agree that we need to do more to ensure that in Guildford people do get access to the facilities that they need, both to develop their creative potential and to put that on display. I have been supporting the Yvonne Arnold, for example, to make sure that it gets the support that it needs to continue.
How did you arrive in Guildford?
I trained as a nurse, worked in the NHS for 25 years, decided I wanted to get involved in politics. I became a local councillor. I was living in Sussex at the time. After the 2001 election, I applied to be selected for Guildford, was selected, and then here I am today, was elected in 2005.
I've lived around here for over 20 years now. I moved here with work. I've basically travelled abroad, worked, and my first job, I became finance director of an investment company in the centre of Guildford.
There was a vacancy for the candidacy in Guildford. I applied for it, was selected. I said if I won it, because I was living in Reading then, we'd moved to Guildford, so we did.
And what do you think of the town?
Love it, absolutely love it. One of the reasons I wanted to stand for Guildford actually is because I'm from York and it has a similar sort of feel. It's got character.
And what do you think of the town?
Yeah, love it.
And if you could make improvements to it, what would you do?
What's important is that the things that help to maintain the wealth of this area are maintained. So for me, the research park is a bit of a concern. The infrastructure of transport into there is flawed.
Potholes fixed, I think. Seriously.
There are other counties outside Surrey that get the same amount of money as Surrey does.
I see.
And have much better roads. The Surrey Advertiser followed around one of the external companies that is filling the potholes, and they did an article on the fact that in one day there was only something like an hour's work that was undertaken. It may have been a particularly challenging day, but I think the point is that a lot of work is being done externally and the quality controls aren't there, and we believe that things can be done much more efficiently.
Now, we've recently seen the phenomena of the X Factor hit everyone. Popular show, lots of people vote on that. In fact, more people vote on that than they did in the local elections. Why?
We don't do enough to actually explain what we're doing. We don't do enough in terms of putting things up. I use Facebook all the time now. Just little messages say, this is what I did today. I do bits of tweeting and so on.
There's a staggeringly large number of people under 26 who haven't even registered to vote. So we've got a democratic process going through, and somehow the political process isn't touching them. And it's clear that people are disillusioned by politics.
We're not glamorous. A lot of the work we do isn't glamorous.
Well, I think anyone that's seen the recent TV debates might disagree with you there.
Well, absolutely, and that's why it's got so suddenly exciting, because you're saying about voting in local elections. And quite frankly, some of our councillors are very hard-working, very good people, but not necessarily Jedward.
Many young people listening, the biggest election in their memories will be the 97 election. Why is there not the same excitement now, given how high the stakes are?
I think that when we entered this election, it looked like it was going to be pretty dull, mired terribly, as you say, by the expenses scandal, with a lot of distrust, not just in politicians, but actually all our public institutions. And then we had the leaders' debate, and it suddenly got exciting, and I think that's absolutely fantastic.
I recently read in a newspaper, I'm sure you did as well, that Gary Barlow stated he's going to be backing the Tories. How is that news?
Well, this is fascinating. We all wheel out our celebrities. I mean, the worst one was seeing Michael Kane coming out for the Tories, scarcely knowing why, in a piece that was all about young people, and suddenly there's this guy who in his heyday was really good, but actually is getting on a bit now. But I don't know whether people are really influenced by it at all. There's very few of them. have any influence about voting. I mean, would you vote for a party just because Gary Barlow supported it?
Social housing is one of the things I did want to ask you about. The average house cost is quite high in Guildford. I believe at last count it was approximately $390,000 for a house,
Right, yeah.
and about $280,000 for a flat.
We want the Civic, but they're using housing money to pay for it. And actually we could have 250 dwellings. But my concern is those people who haven't got homes, who are still living with mum and dad, who are still house sharing when they'd really like to branch off. So I think one of the number one priorities is to work for affordable housing, make sure we give it a priority.
When I knock on the doors of people in parts of Guildford, at Cranley in the villages, I meet many families that have 4 or 5 adults in their homes, just simply because the young people can't get out or the families can't move elsewhere to get the housing that they need. So for us it's really, really important that we provide more houses for people and that we address the fact that there are over 2,000 people on the housing waiting list in Guildford.
Do you think part of the problem is the number of properties bought to rent out?
What you have to do is to get the right sort of mix of accommodation. I don't think that would actually alter house prices.
Uncontrolled mass immigration is one of the things that potentially creates the imbalance that pushes up all of these prices. In the EU, anybody living in one member state has the right to settle in any other member state. And the countries lining up to join the EU represent 138 million people.
Another sight that many local residents may well be familiar with is the Surrey Police Safety Vehicle. Why do we never see that vehicle monitoring drivers around schools and in the city centre?
I don't know actually. One's always slightly concerned about the speed vehicle. Is it a tax raiser? Is it a revenue raiser?
What it's doing is it says if you're driving a stolen car, we know. If you haven't paid your road tax, we know. But what it's not doing now is stopping innocent people just getting on with their business. It's picking on people who are known to be more likely to be causing a problem.
It shouldn't be about revenue. If the police want more money, they should raise it in other ways, and they should not do it, as I say, by imposing fines on speeding traffic. Yep, absolutely, around schools would be a good idea, but generally speaking, around schools you can't move more than about 2 miles an hour because it's so busy.
What I would say is I think safety cameras play an important role in society. I think we have found that speed cameras have reduced deaths on the road, and I understand that people may feel that that they're being unfairly penalised, but I do think that safety cameras have played a role. But what I would say is I'm willing to look at it.
It kind of escaped your attention, but there have recently been some TV debates involving the 3 leaders of the major parties, and we've seen as a result of that Nick Clegg's popularity rise and the Liberal Democrats' popularity rise. Part of that must be down to the voting public ready to accept an alternative. Why do you think they've not been so ready to accept your party as an alternative?
I don't really see that we were given the opportunity. I mean, it would have been fantastic to have had that as a 4-leader debate, and I think that would have, in my view, Nigel Farage is one of the best political debaters, one of the best political speakers, and I think if he'd been allowed to participate in that debate, we would have benefited as well.
As many of our listeners will know, you were in fact an MP prior to losing the seat to Anne Milton. Are you happy with your voting record during your time in Parliament?
It was a lot higher than Anne Milton's. I think it was about 3 times Anne Milton's at one stage. I voted in over 70% of the votes, which is in the top level of voting. So I'm very, very happy with my performance in Westminster.
Now, one of the things we've seen the rise of is politicians using songs to front their campaign. Would you choose one if you were victorious?
Good heavens, I thought you were going to ask me to sing. I really won't sing because I will really put off your audience. I'd have to think about what song that would be.
Maybe a nice little acid jazz track might be a nice, suitable one.
Things can only get better?
Hasn't that been used already?
Oh, has it? Okay. What is it?
I think it was Tony Blair's in 97.
Oh, was it? Okay. There's one I love. I get knocked down, I get up again.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, it won't be things can only get better. I think definitely Uptown Girl.
And finally, where does your party party?
We party in the homes of a few of the members. We've got a few members with very large gardens, and we've had barbecues, we've had a number of parties in those kind of environments.
We're very good at partying, actually. I mean, if we're at Labour Party conference or we're at events, we're always up for partying. And I think, whatever you do in life, whether it's politics or education or health or business, I think it's important to be able to put to relax, to have fun. And I think dancing and socialising with other people can be a great way of doing that.
Well, I go to pubs a lot. During the campaign I go to pubs, it's fantastic. There are loads of pubs in Guildford and I get a chance to go there at lunchtime and in the evening because it's a chance to meet people I wouldn't otherwise meet, actually.
Where does my party? Oh, we're great ones for finding really good pizza expresses and having a good party, and locally we've got one or two great Indian restaurants that we go to.